Do you want to eat dates or use them in a recipe, but you aren't sure if dates are good for your blood sugar? Then stay tuned to find out. Hey everybody, Erin here with Healthy Mom, Happy Family, and thanks so much for joining me for my new series called Can I Eat That with Diabetes? I am so excited to make this video on dates because if you look at a lot of lower sugar recipes and recipes that say they're diabetes friendly or recipes that say they have no added sugar, you're gonna see that dates come into a lot of the ingredient lists. But since dates are a dried fruit that contains sugar, you might be wondering, is this actually a good choice for people with diabetes? So in today's video, I am going to give you all the details on dates. I'm going to talk about what they are, how much sugar they contain, how they impact your blood sugar, and if you can eat dates with diabetes. Now, if you tuned into this video because you were searching how to go on a hot date when you have diabetes, hate to break it to you, not the video for you. Definitely go out on your hot date. But this video is all about dates, the fruit kind, not the date you go out on. However, if you are looking at what to order when you go out on your hot date, make sure to stay tuned because I have lots of videos on that too. But today, we're gonna talk all about the fruit date. Okay, so let's talk about what a date is, right? Because you hear dates, you might not know what they are. But dates are a sweet fruit that come from the date palm tree. And typically you find dates as a dried fruit. Now, you're gonna see them a lot of times they're incorporated into recipes like smoothies and desserts because they provide this way to sweeten a recipe without added sugar. Now, when you look at the nutrition content on a date, one date, because they're pretty large, there's 67 calories on average, about 18 grams of carbohydrate, and 2 grams of fiber per date. Now, the majority of carbohydrates in the date do come from natural sugar, fructose. That's the sugar you find in fruit. But each date contains about 8% of the daily value of fiber. So we're getting a good amount of fiber per date, even though there is sugar in the date. And that fiber really helps to slow down how quickly the carbohydrates are digested in the body and how fast they impact blood sugar levels. So because we have the fiber in the dates, it is beneficial when we think about blood sugar. Now, if you want to understand exactly how dates impact your blood sugar, what we want to do is we want to look at something called the glycemic index and the glycemic load. So glycemic index, or GI, is basically the scale that helps you to understand the effect that carbohydrates have on your blood sugar. So it's a scale that ranges from 0 to 100. And 100 is really what we associate with pure glucose or sugar. And that's the highest your blood sugar can really spike after eating a food. So if you look at the glycemic index when it comes to dates, it ranges anywhere from 43 to 55, and that's going to depend on the variety of dates. So basically when we see foods and their glycemic index, if they are 55 or less, they're considered a low GI food. So that's where dates fit in. They're on the upper end of that range, but they are still considered a low GI food. Now, even though dates are considered low GI, a better measurement really to look at when we think about blood sugar and the impact it has on your blood sugar is what we call the glycemic load. Because glycemic load accounts for the portion and the amount of carbohydrates that's in a particular serving that you're probably gonna eat. Okay, it's more realistic and gives us a bigger picture of how the serving that's reasonable that we're gonna eat is gonna impact our blood sugar. Now, when you are thinking about how a glycemic load is calculated, basically this number is calculated by taking the grams of carbohydrate in the food you're about to eat, so the amount of carbs in that food, and then you multiply it by the glycemic index of that food. And then once you have that number, you divide it by 100. So let's just take the example of dates. Let's say we're gonna eat 2 dates, okay? So eating 2 dates would be 36 grams of carbohydrate. So we would take 36 grams of carbohydrate, the number 36, multiply it by the GI of dates, and let's just take 49 here because it's kind of an average. Dates have a range of 43 to 55. So we're gonna multiply 36 times 49. That gives us 1,764. Then we divide that number by 100, okay? So we get about 17.6, or if you round it up, you get 18. So the glycemic load of this food now is 18. Now, you wanna know what the heck that means, right? Okay, so when we look at glycemic load, a low glycemic load is anywhere from a range of 1 to 10. Medium is from 11 to 19, and above 20 is considered high. So when you have diabetes, you really wanna choose foods with a glycemic load that is low or medium, okay? Anything in the high range tends to spike blood sugar. So when we think about that portion of 2 dates with a glycemic load of 18, it is in the medium category, but it's on the upper end. Okay, if you ate just 1 date, the glycemic load would be 9, puts it on the low end. If you ate 3 dates, we would be in the high range. So you can see how the glycemic load really shows you how your blood sugar is going to respond based on the amount of food you eat. And so when it comes to dates and diabetes, absolutely you can incorporate dates into your diabetes meal plan, but the serving size that's appropriate would usually be 1 to 2 dates. Any more than that at one time, you're going to start to see a rise in blood sugar levels. So let's talk a little bit about how you would actually use dates in your meal plan. One of my favorite ways to recommend using dates is really to swap them as a replacement for added sugar in a recipe. I do this in a lot of my recipes. One of my favorites is my no sugar added cinnamon rolls. I'll put the link below so you can see it. But what I do in these cinnamon rolls is instead of putting brown sugar in, I actually use pureed dates instead. So you get all that same sweetness, but you swap out the added sugar and use the dates. And what this does is not only are you getting rid of that added sugar, but you're also adding fiber, and because you're adding the fiber and this lower glycemic load food as compared to refined sugar, you're giving yourself that same sweet satisfaction and that same kind of dessert with less impact on blood sugar. And as far as recipes go, you can do this with all pureed fruits, but dates particularly. Anytime a baked good calls for added sugar, you can replace it in a 1-to-1 ratio with pureed fruit, so like pureed dates. Okay, dates are also really good as a replacement for added sugar in things like smoothies. So if you were looking at a smoothie recipe and it said put in a tablespoon of honey or maple syrup, instead of doing that, you could put in 1 date and that will sweeten up the recipe without the added sugar. Now, dates also have some health benefits. We know that they're a great swap to cut out the added sugar and use the dates instead for that naturally occurring sugar, but they are also really rich in antioxidants. And so the antioxidants in dates might help to reduce inflammation in the body. There's also some exciting research with animal studies on dates, and they found that eating dates in animal studies, not human yet, but in animal studies, they do find that this actually can help fight against plaque buildup in the brain. And we know that when we get this buildup of plaque in the brain, that can actually increase the risk of neurodegenerative diseases. So again, more research needs to be done on humans, but it is really exciting to think that dates, not only can they improve the sweetness of recipes without the added sugar, and they have all these antioxidants, but potentially they could be beneficial for the brain as well. Okay, so what is the bottom line on dates when it comes to diabetes? So here's the deal. Dates are naturally sweet, they're dried fruit, and they can be easily incorporated into your diabetes meal plan. They contain no added sugar, just natural sugar, but just like any carbohydrate containing food, you have to pay attention to the portion size. So when it comes to diabetes management, stick to 1 to 2 dates per meal or snack. That's going to be your best portion size to prevent spikes in blood sugar. And make sure, just like with any other form of carbohydrate, you balance it out with proteins, fats, and fiber. Those are the nutrients that slow down how quickly the sugar in the food is converted into sugar in your bloodstream. So when you pair them with a high protein meal or high fiber meal, or a meal that's rich in plant-based fats, that's going to have the best results when it comes to managing your blood sugar. So what do you think? Do you use dates in your diabetes meal plan? Comment below and let me know. And if you have any questions on dates, I'd love to hear from you. Plus, if you have any other food you'd like me to feature on the Can I Eat That with Diabetes series, I'd love to know them. So comment below, let me know. And if you liked today's video, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss new tips, tricks, and recipes. Thanks for joining me.